Hello and welcome. Now, I haven't really thought about this today, other than made excuses to myself, saying, oh, it's too windy, you won't be able to talk at the beach, and the traffic noise back in the kuti is too much to bear for people listening, especially if you've got these little ear things and a bus goes by. It must be not peaceful. But maybe I'm just a little oversensitive, I don't know. It isn't that. I talked about disenchantment, and one of the upsides of disenchantment, oh dear, this is very spiky and it's going to damage something if I don't tie it around there, is the development of equanimity towards not only things that we find sensually desirable and attractive and we're drawn towards, but things that are unpleasant. We are not so easily shocked, we're not so easily surprised. Our tendency to jump at a surprise is reduced. This is the development of equanimity, and part of the results we are aspiring towards in this path of practice, in this path of Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Suddenly my eyebrows feel extremely noticeable, I think because I've shaved my head and my face today, being as it's the day before Uposatha, and not my eyebrows as I used to in Thailand. My equanimity is disturbed by the nature of my eyebrows being there, very present on my face, perhaps exaggerated by the sun and the sand and the wind in front of me. So yes, my first excuse was it was a little windy, but then I came to this, what has become my usual spot. People are used to me coming here now. The whole beach is kept very clean and tidy, so I never have to worry about that. And this little spot is usually free, and seemingly today very sheltered from the wind. Just a bit over there, my other spot, is very windy. No way could I talk there. I sat there for a few moments and it was very nice. You feel the benefit of the breeze. It's not cold wind, it's a beautiful breeze off the sea. But disenchantment, not nirodha, that is the end of suffering. Nibbida is often translated as, or can be translated as disenchantment, that I spoke of recently, is something that is a symptom of our progress. As we develop, we become less excited by the things we used to be excited by. But what I didn't mention was its opposite number, but also one of the benefits is that things that perhaps used to scare us more, monsters or ghosts or things that go bump in the night, no longer scare us as much. Now, I don't think I've ever been particularly a fearful person in that respect, but I was quite an enjoyer of sensual pleasure. And as I spoke of, what drew me into this practice was, in fact, the energy I had for satisfying or trying to satisfy those insatiable sensual desires one finds in samsara and establishes once one knows and can see clearly the results of trying to satisfy those insatiable desires are just increased desire as a result of adding fuel to the fire. When one sees this clearly and recognizes the power of that drive, you see craving clearly, you see thirst clearly, you see the negative sides of desire, tanha. But there is also chanda, the positive aspects of desire, another Pali word, chanda. Tanha is the Pali word for thirst, craving, but desire. Chanda is the positive side of desire. So to practice, to seek liberation, freedom from suffering in this lifetime, maybe take up the renunciant life, become a monk, maybe just practice more meditation, keep the precepts. These kinds of desires are, of course, skillful, wholesome, and lead to increased contentment and happiness. So yes, as a result of the practice, we find that there are so many benefits in just purely sitting and allowing the body to settle and become relaxed, the mind to settle and to become calm and peaceful, and to experience tranquility in our meditation that we don't experience with this fueling of fires of desires that we are used to trying to continually satisfy. We find this simple pleasure in such a simple thing as breathing in, like that, just that, a simple in-breath. Now that may sound, well, I don't think much of that, or, oh, well, it's all right, it's easy for him to say, but just try it for yourself. In the midst of chaos, in the midst of all that could be going on around you, just not in a full sway, oh, just breathe, out in a case of trying to relieve panic, although that is something that works, but just take a moment to breathe in like that and really experience that breath in, the feel, the temperature of that whole body of air as it enters into your body and then as it is exhaled from your body. This only takes a matter of seconds, and it brings you right into the present moment and into the body. And you see for yourself this little piece of nirodha, end of suffering, this little piece of satisfaction, of contentment for a millisecond or so, that is enough to draw you back to wanting to do that again. So it is, in a way, an addiction again to something, but it's replacing those addictions, those cravings, those thirsts for trying to satisfy what is insatiable. And through this, eventually the things that did excite us are reduced. But things that didn't appeal to us really sort of turned us off, put us off, we'd avoid. They become less effective. We become less reactive towards those also. What made me think of this and why I'm talking about it now is I was just clearing around the bathroom after I'd shaved my head and what have you. I have a bathroom here, and actually I don't have to do it outside in a waterfall or anything like that. It's very civilized. Good job too, because I've been here for quite some time, longer than I had expected to, because the rains continue. Maybe this extra wind we're experiencing just now and at the moment is an indication of a change again in the weather, and maybe these rains will, I'm assured that they do stop at some point, but they're very heavy rains in the evenings. And a couple of occasions I've been able to come down here on the beach at around 5 to 6 o'clock when the sun is setting, just to see how it is down here at sunset, because this is a west coast, the sun sets over the sea, which is something I'm quite used to. I don't get that excited about it and run around taking photographs, because of course not only have I seen a lot of that, fortunately, I've been fortunate in that respect, often to be on beaches, and on east coasts where the sun rises. But I just see it as that. It's just seeing something very beautiful. I don't take anything away from the beautiful photographs people do take. And I have taken many in the past, but I no longer find it necessary. But yes, the bathroom, cleaning around, I moved the curtain and the spider came out from behind the curtain, but about this big. And well, spiders haven't really bothered me before, so I can't say that it's a great change. But I thought, well, it's a spider, it could be poisonous or it might not be, but whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's just a spider, it lives there, and I left it there, and it will stay there. Maybe it will go away. It doesn't matter. But it just made me think, well, if that was a snake, how would I react? And this has happened quite often also in Thailand, mainly, where there are many more snakes. I haven't seen many snakes here, just a few. I've come around a path through the jungle, through these little jungle paths, which are just where the water runs. They're not proper paths. It's just where the water runs down the hill in the rainy season and makes a kind of a furrow through the roots and the dirt, the sand or the gravel or the earth. You follow these paths, and I've come around a corner and there's been a huge python or there's been a cobra there ready to strike, and they don't make me jump anymore. Now, to some extent, this is nonchalance of living around these creatures all of the time, but it's largely due to the practice, to this establishment or developing of this quality of equanimity. And this goes hand in hand with its other partners in the four Brahma Viharas of metta, loving kindness, compassion, karuna, mudita, joy for others. And equanimity is upekkha in the Pali word. So we have metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha, these four Brahma Viharas. And we shouldn't take each one separately. It's often a tendency for people to practice metta. And this is nothing wrong with that at all. It is a good practice. But we should be really not practicing it, but developing this as a quality. And by developing metta, loving kindness as a quality, you naturally develop compassion. And compassion similarly, having compassion, even if sometimes you don't feel so compassionate towards, let's say, that spider, but you think, well, it is after all its home. It was there long before I came along. So out of compassion, I will make some room around it and make sure I don't enter into its space again. Maybe that's a little weak as far as compassion's concerned, but it's getting towards a compassionate nature towards another being whose space I am sharing. And these little things we do during our day help develop all four of these four qualities that we're trying to develop through our practice. And ultimately one of those being equanimity, which really does afford you the opportunity to have more compassion, have more joy for others, have more loving kindness. Because when you're equanimous and you're less reactive, you have a moment to think. You put a little bit of space between what is regarded as yourself, your person, this persona that you have established in your view out of causes and conditions you have put in place and taken hold of as you, this being, yourself. And of course, this idea of not self, not no self, but this self not being actually what we are, but more of a conditioned thing, a creation of ours as a result, which is vipaka, the result of karma, actions of body, speech and mind we have put in place throughout all of our activities in this lifetime. And if you understand the nature of rebirth, previous lifetimes, and as we are doing now for the next moment, let alone future lifetimes and rebirths, these actions of body, speech and mind are conditioning what this persona, this thing we appropriate to be ourselves, as what we are. Now, the more we develop these acts of loving kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, mudita, joy for others, and this feeling of equanimity, upekkha, the better those qualities are developed, the more wholesome this actual visible also personality is. But we don't hold on to that. We don't say, I am now this person that is compassionate and has loving kindness and is equanimous, of course. Because if we have developed this, it can take just one little thing like that for that all to just vanish in a second. Someone could run across over here now and do something most inappropriate, and I don't know what my reaction would be. I mean, this is a most unlikely scenario, but I'm just trying to paint a picture that we do not own this creation as a result of causes and conditions we put in place. But we establish a groundwork, a foundation, mainly through sila, through moral virtue. And we build and we develop these qualities throughout our lives. And this is mainly through the practice of meditation, samadhi, because it is then when we're just sitting, enjoying this opportunity for our bodies to settle and relax, for our minds to settle and to become calm. It is then that we can really start to see the real true nature of our existence, see how all things are impermanent in nature, and how actually things are really unsatisfactory. Even when we think they are something we like, they're unsatisfactory by the very nature of that impermanence, and this we call dukkha, as you know. And this reinforces our understanding of anatta, that this person, this self, is not us, it's just the result of these causes and conditions. So what did I start off? It's a shame you can't reply, because I could ask you now what I actually started to talk about, because I have no idea. I think that's maybe what I said, that I had no plan as to what I was going to talk about, because I was making excuses not to talk about anything at all. So it is the Apostata approaching. This can be your calendar. My calendar is the moon. There's a little uncertainty, or I have a bit of uncertainty, as to when the Apostata is exactly. According to my Thai calendar, the Apostata, the Apostata is the full moon and new moon. It's the holy day, like the Sabbath. It's the Buddhist holy day. We use the full moon and new moon as our lunar calendar to mark these days, which are 14 and a half day gaps, so approximately 1 month, 15 days between the two. The full moon to the new moon is 15 days, and then the new moon to the full moon is 15 days. So I would have been here now 45 days on the new moon, because I came on the full moon of whatever the previous month was. And it's the new moon on Wednesday. I know that from just looking at the moon. You can see quite clearly on a bright clear sky when it is such. And also there is an app on my phone that it shows you exactly wherever you are in the world what the moon's doing, because so many people have different ideas of when the full moon is. It quite precisely shows you this exactly when it is, at what time it is as well, and depending on your location, everything. So it's quite clearly to see that it is actually Wednesday that it's the full moon. But according to my Thai calendar, it's the Apostata on tomorrow, Tuesday, the 12th, the day before. So sometimes it varies slightly. But here they don't really bother with the new moon so much as an Apostata day, but they do a lot of extra activities on what they call Poya, the full moon, their Upasata day. So really they only have one official Upasata here. In Thailand they have 4, because they celebrate the quarter moons, the half moons as well. So I've gone from 4 down to 1, but I stick to my same consistency of practice wherever I am. So my full moon really officially is on Wednesday, the actual full moon. So if I had no contact with the outside world, and I was on a tropical island in the middle of the ocean, which I was for over a month once, off the coast of Cambodia, and I had no phone, no electricity, nothing like that. So I was able to just use the moon as my calendar, the sun as my clock, and literally had to count the days down to when I had to go back to the mainland, either side of the significant dates, which I knew I'd based around my lunar calendar. So one can live like this, and I continue with that as my practice, as I don't live in the conventional world. It's quite practical and easy for me to do so. But of course, in a country that's living with the conventional world and in a conventional world, like here, the Poya day, they adjust it slightly to try and make as many Poya days, I think, as they can during the year at the weekend, because it is a public holiday here. So if it's on a Saturday and Sunday, it doesn't cause much commercial disruption. So, that being said, eyebrows, they're there. I don't shave them off here because I don't know whether the monks do here or not, but it's a Thai thing. That's why I'm fiddling with them and I'm noticing them, because I've shaved my head. And this is bodily feeling, isn't it? I'm noticing something that was there yesterday, but not noticeable, only because it remains. I've got used to shaving them off in Thailand. And I've kind of stopped doing that here because it's not very practical. You sweat and it goes in your eyes. And when it rains, as it's been raining so much here, that also goes in your eyes. So with eyebrows, they're a useful thing. They work as little rain guttering systems. The rain goes along your eyebrows and down there. That's the idea of them, I think. So I've left them be for now. And I'm noticing them there. But we get used to things. We get settled in. I also, for example, have just cut my fingernails, which I do also on this same day. So every 15 days we shave our heads, and you don't probably want to hear about all this, but it has some relevance to the Dharma. Bodily feelings, getting used to, and as a result of this getting used to, we feel these bodies are ours. But when I go to cut my 10 fingernails, or 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, I only have 7.5 fingers, because of course one is missing, and therefore one missing nail. But the urge to cut this fingernail has never gone away. And I mean, this finger does feel like it's still there. And sometimes if it gets scratchy, I have to do this. I was told by the doctor person that this is what you do. You tap it and it goes away. And people with limbs, my father had to have his arm cut off, amputated. And he had terrible discomfort of this arm that wasn't there. He wanted to straighten his arm. When he asked the doctor why this was, he said, well, when we amputated it, his arm was like this. So of course this is embedded in our brains. But when we know this is just our body, so we can employ tactics like tapping. I know that there's no fingernail there. I don't need to cut it, because the feeling of that is is even just that it's in my imagination, it's in my mind, is that this fingernail has just been growing and growing and growing for 15, 20 years, or however long it's been since it's not been there, and needs cutting. But of course it doesn't. It's not there. But it's part of what I perceive to be myself. But of course it's not there. But am I not me? Was my father not my father when he only had one arm left? He was still as I perceived him to be, the same from his own point of view, perhaps with one less arm. But in terms of our impression of our bodies, imagine if we were just eyes, ears, nose, mouth. So we just were seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, without bodies. But maybe we had feeling of some kind, some way of knowing this was brushing against me with its sharp thorns. But we didn't have this actual physical body of 2 arms, 2 legs, fingers and toes, ears and such like this. We just had this sensory idea. Now this would just be consciousness, wouldn't it? This would just be awareness of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, without it being part of what we assume to be a self, a body. Now, I've no idea where I'm going here with this, but it's just talking, perhaps for talking's sake, but it's interesting to think that we have conscious awareness. We know we're seeing, we know we're hearing, we know we're smelling, we know we're tasting, and we know that we're feeling something, don't we? Even when we are deprived of partially something of our sight. We have one eye. We can only see from one eye. We still know we are seeing. Our vision can be impaired to a degree, but our brain makes up the missing aspect. Now I know this because I have a bit of my vision missing, and I can't see this bit that's missing. They have to do an actual very long, arduous test to check that this bit that's missing isn't getting any bigger, missing any more. Because I can't see whether it's getting more or less. It won't get less, but I can't see if it's getting more, because your brain makes up the difference. It just is got used to you seeing with two eyes. So if you're seeing 25% less from one of your eyes, it doesn't look that way. You're seeing everything. I'm seeing the horizon, the ocean, the sand, the boats, the trees, all in their entirety. There's not 25% missing. Even if I close my fully seeing eye, it's all there, because your brain makes up the difference. Much like it fools us to us thinking that this self is what we are, when in fact we're not. We are just as a result of causes and conditions. But in terms of our experience, our conscious awareness, it is very real. What we're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, what we are experiencing. But when we have confidence in the awareness and our consciousness of that awareness, then we are beginning to awaken to the truth. And that is the truth of we are not this physical bag of skin, bones, and other bits and bobs it contains, or indeed even these personas we have developed, or indeed even these qualities we have developed, however good and admirable they aren't necessarily a part of us, but they are qualities. And they do attach themselves to that awareness in order that we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and feel in a different way, in a less reactive way, in a kinder way, in a more compassionate way, and in a less selfish way, so we have joy for others. So we're developing not only these 4 Brahma Viharas for their own sake, for this personality to be a nice person, to achieve something, but we're developing them as part of that conscious awareness. This we call our citta in the Pali language. And that can be very hard to define. But if we think of it as that conscious awareness, not in the form of just being really aware, like mindfulness of what's going on, what we're seeing, what we're hearing, smelling, tasting and touching and tasting, but actually awareness of all of that experience in a non-attached way. This is letting go of this self. This is anatta. I was wondering what was going on behind me. I might have to look back at the video to see what that was. So I was aware something was going on behind me, and but not through seeing, just through hearing. So sensing something was going on behind me. In terms of what's going on in front of me, I'm obviously able to see. But our minds will put 2 and 2 together. If I was in the jungle all alone and it was dark and that sound was behind me, I perhaps would have turned around and moved, because it could have been a wild creature. Because I'm in a place that's familiar to me and I know this place, I'm pretty sure it's not a dangerous creature. Probably just someone doing some more cleaning of the sand, because it's non-stop cleaning of this sand here. It's a wonderful, wonderfully clean beach. It's the cleanest place I've ever been to. Yes, so there we are. There are a few comments and questions. I'm not going to go into those now, as I've spoken for a little while already. I think I'll probably leave it at that, and tomorrow then have some room to talk of some of the comments that I've received and speak about your questions. The Upasita here, I don't really need or have to go anywhere for that particularly. So life continues as normal. As long as this rain continues, I stay here in this same place, and I've decided probably that I'll continue to keep this as my base here in Sri Lanka, even when I do go off on some trips in the not too distant future, because it's a place that is looking after me well. Some of the comments have actually said that how does it feel, you know, to be so well supported and looked after and respected there in Sri Lanka. Well, I feel very welcome. That's the best way to sum it up. I feel extremely at home and welcome here in this place, not only because it's a Buddhist country, but the people are so very friendly and kind. And yes, as you've seen with the videos of Pindapat, they give me more than adequate supply of food each day, and my requisites, robes. I have a collection of umbrellas now. None of these abundances go to waste. It all gets given to people who need things, especially the food, obviously. So there's this. On Sunday, yesterday I went to another house invitation, which happened not to be a lunch invitation as I was expecting, but another one of these death anniversary marking the occasion things. I could say celebration, I suppose. They have these after 7 days of somebody dying in a household, 3 months and 1 year, and then annually, where they seem to get as many monks as they can to squeeze into a place and offer them as much as possible. Dana, food and robes and fruits and all kinds of requisites. This is for people to be able to dedicate merit to their loved ones who are dear and departed loved ones. And this is a whole another aspect of Buddhist practice that I don't talk about much, although some of that is included in my chanting, because whatever you might think of it in terms of dedicating your goodness, because this is what it means, punya is goodness. And dedicating of punya, dedicating of merits, another word for goodness, is dedicating that goodness to other beings, whether they're alive, dead, heavenly realms, hell realms, ghostly realms, whatever your chosen ideas and understanding of all of this Buddhist cosmology, mythology might be. It doesn't matter. You're dedicating the goodness of your practice to others. And you can specify, if you wish, this is people's choice. And this is what's going on those occasions. It's not my preferred way to spend my time, I must say, because I don't really understand what's going on. But the chanting is very nice. It's quite short, and it's much the same as what I chant in the morning. And the food is obviously very nice, but it does go a little bit after my deadline. So I have to try and eat a little bit quickly and be very polite not to seem to refuse through rites and rituals, because it's not that. I'm just quite disciplined in this not eating afternoon. So I accept as much as possible and then perhaps miss out on some of the sweet things. And I do keep to within my parameters without any difficulty and without causing offence. This time I was especially careful not to eat beforehand. I knew that it was going to be food, whereas last time I had eaten, so I had to refuse all offerings of food, which I didn't feel good about. It felt wrong to refuse them the opportunity to offer dana, but I really couldn't eat anymore, and it was way beyond my eating time. But on this occasion it all fitted into place. I think in future though I'll make sure that they've plenty of monks who want to go to these occasions for that purpose, and I'll stick to my routine, which has established itself quite well now. People can come to the place where I'm staying. I don't consider it as my kuti so much as it's like a little open temple, because anybody can just drop in at any time, and they do from time to time. Often might bring something, an umbrella or some robes or some Panadol, headache pills, or some balm medicine. This is Gilana Pachaya for monks, or Coca-Cola or coffee or something like that. So people come in not just for that or just to say hello. It's their space also. And yes, I sleep there at night, but I'm up early for meditation, chanting, and I'm establishing quite a nice simple routine that after Pindapat I return. If people want to come and offer some more dana, they can do, and I usually eat at around 9 a.m. now. So then after that I'm free for the rest of the day for meditation. But I'm now going to be inviting people to meditate with me from 5, and then maybe talking and having some Dharma talks or questions and answers at 6, through the evening, see how it goes. But that's going to be more when the weather changes and I can come down here for that, because the road, which I am used to and don't notice, the whole surrounding area is so very peaceful, but the little kuti that I have, the accommodation I'm staying in, is right on a main road. And you may well say, well, why don't you move? There's plenty of other places in Sri Lanka, surely. Yes, there are. And kutis, and attached to monasteries. I'm actually staying independent of other temples and monasteries here because it enables me to practice alone in solitude without the involvement of all these activities that do go on in temples and monasteries over and above what I've just described in my own daily practice, such as all these house visits and all these ceremonial things that go on. So then I have to have accommodation that is appropriate for a monk. So the beautiful little peaceful places aren't always going to be appropriate for a monk to stay in. They're probably too big. I have certain restrictions of size and accommodation. So I really have just this one room. It was an empty building, so there are no physical restrictions in terms of the size that it was built. If you build a kuti, there are dimensions, but it fits within the simplicity. What you see on here in the morning chanting is what you get. Through the door where you can't see is literally just the bathroom. That's it. A wash hand basin and then the bathroom in another little room. Or the washroom, toilet, whatever you want to call it. The shower thing. So the tap. So the running water, which is great. I'm very grateful for. That is it. And either side there are just the two families. So not their local families. And when I say families, they're mature families. So they're all I hear, the noises you hear in the background, are their chanting and their sounding that they're listening to on their radio broadcasts or whatever however they're listening to it, and these kinds of things. So I'm not staying in a place where there are visitors coming and going and tourists and TVs and music and this and that. So it's a very suitable place, which is why I shall hang on to it for as long as it's available. And I think on that note, I should bring this talk to an end. I didn't talk of anything specific. Being British, I'll apologise for that. I think I have a tendency to apologise a little bit too much, but it's only natural. It comes naturally to me. So I'll leave it at that, and I hope if there's something useful there, if there is, you can find it and use it. If not, then please just let it go. And thank you for watching. Be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu. Oh, little lizard just ran along there.